us like human beings, not like livestock.
Where local farmers have been beaten by police for protesting outside Coca-Cola bottling plants against what they claim is water depletion by the bottlers.
Companies are choosing to make something that will be used just once. One garbage truck of plastic is dumped in the sea every minute.
Orange juice is a several billion-dollar industry.
But Coca-Cola consumes 290 billion litres of water a year, all the more controversial, as he pulls Coca-Cola from the well.
This is great.
But our team has attracted attention in the area. It seems we are being watched. Even though our visit was arranged with Afonso's supervisor the day before, Afonso is banned from working for 11 days. Losing almost half of his monthly salary. The employee has signed a contract forbidding them to disclose internal company information.
Country's love affair with fizzy drinks is causing a diabetes emergency. Coca-Cola is more available than even fresh water.
Pure Evil, the Coca-Cola Company soda juice industry files. Deep dive into this topic. So let's get started into this political topic. Soda companies compliant in colonization, fascism, and genocide and terrorism. The soft drink Fanta company was invented by Coca-Cola themselves, an American company inside of Nazi Germany during World War II. Developed at the height of the Third Reich, the new soda ensured the brand's continued popularity. Fanta became a point of nationalistic pride of the country and is consumed by the German public, from the Frost cooking at home to the highest officials of the Nazi Party of the fascist regime with Hitler. By the time Hitler and the Third Reich marched into Austria, Coca-Cola had been in Germany for nearly a decade. Coke was invented in 1886 by Dr. John Stith Purebun, who sold it at local Atlanta pharmacy for 5 cents a glass. We all know that it had Coke in it, etc. Back in America, the Coca-Cola Company, led by Robert Woodruff, did not discourage this. The company sponsored the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which Woodruff attended, and made banners featuring the Coca-Cola logo alongside the swastika trademark. Keith used a 10th anniversary party for Coca-Cola to order a mass sing hell, a Nazi salute in honor of the dictator's 50th birthday party. He declared that this was to commemorate our deepest admiration for our Führer. When it comes to Palestine versus Israel, in 2009, Coca-Cola hosted a special reception at their headquarters to honor General Benjamin Ben Esser, who served as Israeli defense minister under Ariel Sharon and was in charge of the storming of a refugee camp in 2002, leaving hundreds of Palestinians dead and displaced. Every year, Coca-Cola financially supports the American Israel Chamber of Commerce Awards, which honors companies that have contributed the most to Israeli economy. Coca-Cola has built a bottling plant in Gaza. This is a problem as Palestinians and people all over the world face a chronic shortage of fresh water because fresh water is an endangered supply. Coca-Cola has extracted large quantities from the area. There is also concern regarding the factory's electricity supply. It is clearly not about creating jobs for Palestinians. Moreover, it has been revealed that Coca-Cola sent thousands of dollars, $13,000 to IMTIRTZU, an extremist pro-settlement Israeli group. This group has described the Nakba, literally translate as the catastrophe, where an estimated 750,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homelands, and hundreds of Palestinian towns and villages depopulated and were destroyed. Coca-Cola is accused by Colombian courts for allegedly financing terrorism and hitmen in Colombia, hiring hitmen from them between 1990 and 2002 to kill at least 10 trade union leaders who are trying to organize at CEC plants. Both these companies have been accused of anti-union activities, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Second, about Coca-Cola's disgusting fake news mascot / the hypocrisy behind Coca-Cola's attempt to save the polar bear. When the holiday season comes around, Coca-Cola has reintroduced their beloved images of polar bears drinking Coke cans this holiday season. However, they have accompanied those familiar advertisements with an environmental spin, putting emphasis on saving the polar bears from climate change, which is hypocritical in itself and pure fake news propaganda, because capitalism is the number one cause of climate change crisis. And there have been, obviously these companies put profits over the lives of their employees, people, and animals and all that, so it makes no sense. When it comes to bottling, soda plants require a large amount of water supply and fresh water, just like Nestle, etc. They require 1.9 liters of water required to make one small bottle of Coca-Cola. This doesn't even cover all of it, as the sugarcane used in their drink results in an extra 400 liters of water to make one bottle of cola. Coca-Cola has faced crisis in India due to their mismanagement of water and fresh water in the country. It has systematically rinsed villages of their own water resources, leaving them with little or toxic water pool resources. It continues to operate bottling plants in areas where the demand for water already exceeds the amount of water available in the area, and proposes new plants in areas where communities already have limited access to safe drinking water, and because fresh water is a limited supply. It was reported that 1 million traders in India were boycotting Coca-Cola and Pepsi drinks after 2 Indian trade associations called them out for exploiting India's very rare freshwater resource supply. Coca-Cola made limited efforts to tackle forced labor risks in their sugarcane supply chain as well. This includes a high risk of debt bondage imposed on workers in India and human trafficking risks in Guatemala, Mexico. Agricultural workers, particularly migrants, were most at risk. Indeed, Brazil and India, the 2 largest sugarcane producers in the world, rely on mostly migrants and rural workers with little education. Workers manually harvest sugarcane under hazardous working conditions, just like Nestle chocolate slaves do, working long hours and low wages. Lack of language skills and education leave these workers further vulnerable to exploitation by these capitalist companies and, people hiring them, and deception over work and wages. A shocking science study has come out very recently. Microplastic pollution has been detected in human blood for the first time ever, with scientists finding tiny particles in almost 80% of the people tested in this experiment. The discovery shows the particles can travel around the body and may lodge in organs and vital organs. The impact on health is yet unknown, but researchers are very concerned as to the microplastics cause damage to human cells in the laboratory, and air pollution particles are already known to enter the body and cause millions of deaths each year. Huge amounts of plastic waste and plastic pollution and the crisis of plastic are dumped in the environment, and microplastics now contaminate the entire planet from the summit of Mount Everest all the way to the deepest parts of the ocean. People are already known to consume tiny particles via food and water, as well as breathing them in, and have been found in the poop of babies and adults themselves. The scientists analyzed blood samples from 22 anonymous donors, all healthy adults, and found plastic pollution particles in 17.5 the samples contained PET plastic, which is commonly used in drinking bottles, plastic bottles. Plastic pollution is set to double by 2040. A recent study found that microplastics can latch onto the outer membranes of the red blood cells and may limit their ability to transport oxygen. The particles have also been found in the placenta of pregnant women themselves. A 2017 study from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation found that by 2050, Earth's oceans will contain more plastic than fish already. There are huge submerged moving concentrations of garbage waste in every one of the planet's oceans, known as giant garbage patches, that are floating around the ocean. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is one of the biggest ones, which lies between Japan and California itself, for example, is twice the size of Texas and continuously grows. Plastic is non-biodegradable. Plastic also pollutes land and the air. A huge amount of plastic waste ends up in landfills, but a paper from the Water Research has demonstrated that landfill isn't the final sinking place of plastic pollution, but a potential source of microplastics themselves. Plastics are ground down in a landfill, and these smaller microplastic particles can be airborne and carried by the wind and breathed into people and the animals' lungs themselves. Billion-dollar drink companies such as Nestle and Coca-Cola are among the worst offenders when it comes to plastic pollution. It is revealed in 2019 that Coca-Cola alone produced about 108 billion plastic bottles, or 3 million tons of plastic each year. This waste is entirely unnecessary. Drinks like Coke used to be bottled and sold in reusable glass bottles a long time ago until they changed to plastic bottles. Invested in the predominance of plastic material and the capitalist production are some of the most powerful entities on the planet. The fossil fuel giants themselves, such as Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, Sinopec, and other oil and gas superpowers companies have an interest in plastic coating as many products as possible inside giant petrochemical hubs. Petroleum is manufactured into plastic material, providing the world's companies a relatively cheap, versatile, and light material used for everything from engine parts to toys themselves. The rise of plastic over the 70 years has been accompanied by one of the biggest lies in modern history, the lie of plastic recycling. When Coca-Cola introduced plastic bottles, it launched a propaganda campaign and a fake news campaign aimed at shifting all the responsibility of the plastic pollution crisis from the company to the actual individuals who buy them. Such recycling campaigns are pioneered corporate greenwashing. You can't be pro-capitalism and be green, point blank period. Don't blame individuals, blame the companies themselves. Okay, when it comes to the orange juice and other juice industries, when it comes to Coca-Cola and Pepsi, this section is for those white vegans who claim veganism foods and drinks are cruelty-free and, like, the food is cruelty-free. Brazil is the world's leading orange producer and is responsible for the production of a third of the world's oranges, more than half the orange juice, and more than 80% of concentrated orange juice supply. Today, more than 50% of all orange juice bottled by major companies like Tropicana is supplied by a Brazilian company. However, cheaper Brazilian orange juice has some serious costs. One 2015 study report from activist organization Supply Chain called the orange picking industry in Brazil a modern-day system of slavery, just like how Nestle and Cargill used child slavery to make their own chocolate in Africa and pick the cocoa beans. These juice workers are sometimes unpaid for weeks and trapped in an employment agreement contracts that keep them in debt and stuck on the plantation, the report says. Since most of the pickers come to the plantation from poor northeast of Brazil, sometimes over 3,000 miles away, they need board and lodging, they need shelter, for which assorbate fees are deducted from their wages because they need shelter. It is not unusual for these workers to accumulate debts as high as over $7,000 within a few months, causing some to want to work at any cost. The report also alleges that high pesticide use leads to unsafe working conditions and even death. Supply Chain claims the orange juice produced under these conditions ends up in Simply Orange, Tropicana, and Minute Maid bottles. When it comes to Coca-Cola, in 2012, an investigation uncovered the plight of migrants employed in southern Italy's orange harvest centered around the town of Risceno. Many were found to be living in squatted conditions, some in shanty-style camps with no running water or electricity, others in abandoned farmhouses or abandoned factories. Some were found to be sleeping in the open. Here are some other human rights abuses from these companies. Tropicana Beverages agrees to pay over $164,000 to settle a OSHA case. Tropicana Beverages North America have entered into a settlement agreement after the company was cited for exposing workers to seriously safety hazards at the company Brandon, Florida's processing plant. The company has agreed to cite all hazards and pay penalties totaling over $164,000. Beverage plant PepsiCo bought Tropicana in 1998, and the plant was awarded star status in February 2000. 9 months later, an employee was crushed to death between a truck and a loading dock and died at the scene. NOSHA inspection found the company was not at fault for this and did not issue any fines for that situation. OSHA did not cite the company in this incident. However, OSHA in the following years inspected the facility 41 times and issued citations for 265 violations. In December 2004, when cleaning procedures changed, a hazard evaluation for the use of flammable liquid in maintenance operations was reported not performed and a warning on the container label was not healed. OSHA began a investigation in October 2005 after 2 mechanics were seriously burned by a flashpoint fire that occurred during maintenance operations. The company was cited for failing to take adequate precautions to prevent the ignition of flammable materials and vapors in the area produced by a solvent that they used, a mixture of brine, ammonia, and oil, used to clean sludge from compressors. The company was also cited for failure to enforce its own policy and the OSHA requirements to provide employees with fall arrest equipment when exposed to fall hazards of up to 25 feet during compressor maintenance operations. OSHA inspection found 8 serious violations and 2 willful violations, the latter meaning that in OSHA judgment the company knew of the dangerous situations and disregarded the workers' safety and all that. The company also received 10 serious citations and a $38,000 fine for failing to establish and implement a management of change program, employee safety training, written procedures, etc. PepsiCo was also sued and has agreed to pay $3.13 million to resolve charges. The company discriminated against black people in the U.S., an investigation had found, and on top of that, an investigation into Indonesian plantations operated by Indonesian food giant Indofood, a joint venture with partner PepsiCo, has found evidence of numerous human rights violations and abuses, including the use of child labor in those areas.